Hope everybody is able to see my screen. So my name is Amit. And I am an Agile practitioner since early days when Agile was not very popular in India. And our today's topic is on crafting Agile requirements. So we will talk about themes, epics, and user stories, basically. And this is our agenda. So in Agile, when we talk about Agile, so there are a lot of Agile practices like Scrum, Kanban, Lean, TDD, FDD, lot of Agile practices. But here specifically, we will talk only about Scrum and a little bit about extreme programming, little bit only. But basically, we will talk about Scrum, how we capture the requirements in Scrum, and what all these terms are there in Scrum: theme, epics, and user stories. The reason behind choosing Scrum is 90% of the industry today is following Scrum because of its easiness and adaptiveness. It's very I will say mingled with the Indian IT software industry, basically. So this is our agenda for today. So we'll first talk about traditional versus Agile requirement crafting. So how we used to do earlier in waterfall and how we do today, and why user stories, and little bit more about the user stories structure. Then what is the invest model of user stories. Invest model is a way to make our user stories more meaningful. Then there are 3 C's from Ron Jeffrey: epics, themes, and we will see that how epics, themes, features, and user stories fit in different project journey. So there are different stages in project execution. One is when the real execution of requirements are happening, where we use tasks, and there is one release level, there is one project level, there is one portfolio vision level. So how we can differentiate between themes, epics, and task and user stories. Then we will talk about product backlog and its ownership. There is a 2 iteration window model. We will talk which industry follow. And then we'll talk about sprint backlog and its ownership. Okay, so let's start with our traditional versus Agile requirement crafting. So how we used to do during our waterfall method. So if you remember in waterfall, before we execute any project, we used to clarify all the requirements beforehand, and then we used to do the estimation and all. But like we used to write the UML, so the specification of a set of action we used to take, which performed by a system and which yield an observable result that is typically of value of one or more actors. So you might have remembered means how we used to do in unified modeling language. And when we come to the Agile requirement crafting, it's very simple. It's like how we are talking. So it's more informal way of capturing the requirements. So where our business analyst or product owner connect with the stakeholder, and he take a simple clear brief and jot down a kind of a story. That's why we call it a story. Means it's just our common language. It's not something when we do requirement crafting in waterfall, it was like different actors we created, a diagram was there, lot of requisites were there. But here it's a simple plain story which is depicting the user requirement with different personas. We'll talk about user story more in later slides, but it's like making the world very simple through Agile. Very informal way, very simple. So why user story? So it's like, you know, in Agile, when we talk about the documentation, it is not something like we don't do documentation in Agile. We do documentation in Scrum, but it is just right size of documentation. So when we come to the requirement also, it is something like whatever is required. It's not something like we will put whole world into the story description. It is something like only what is required we will put at the tool or whatever, you know, medium you are using to capture the requirement. So right size of planning, work for iterative development, because when we talk about user story, it is like a user's requirement in user's word. So defer detail. So when we talk about our waterfall method, so as we discussed, like every requirement should be clarified beforehand, but in Agile it is not something like that. So what we expect that up to 2 iterations we should know the requirements what need to be executed. Rest of the requirement probably can stay in our product backlog at high level only. So probably we might not have much description or, you know, clarity about rest of the requirement, but we can start our development to produce the business value. Rest of the requirements over the period of our 2 iteration time we can clarify, but initially we can start the project execution with a small set of requirement. So defer until details until we have the best understanding of what we are going to have about what we really need. So the stories which are not having that much details available at this moment, so those stay way down in the product backlog. And the requirements which are having the clarity, those requirements get priority in product backlog for execution. Okay, so next one is focus on user goals rather than feature attributes. So in complete Scrum execution or whatever Agile methodology we are using, the focus is on providing the business value, not something like, you know, we have to finish the project. Like, okay, so we were there at focus on user goals rather than feature attribute. Next is emphasize on verbal communication rather than written communication. So in Agile, as we say that we always welcome the changes, and you know, there are a lot of communication we generally do while executing the requirements with stakeholders or user group. So here the importance is more on the communication rather than, you know, a long you know, business requirement documentation. So potentially fixes issues with vague requirements. So initially, lot of requirements are vague. Vague in the sense, no, not much details are available, but over the period of time, it's the responsibility of product owner who do arrange several product backlog grooming sessions, and he connect lot of time with the stakeholders and users to get more clarity on the requirements, but it cannot hinder the project execution. And comprehensive by both stakeholders and development teams. So it's kind of you know, mutual understanding with every executionable requirement what we do in Scrum, that an agreement between the stakeholders and the dev team. It's a and a PO play the role of a bridge to make the clarity of the requirement. And stories support empirical development. As you know, that over the period of time, stories evolved. Initially not much clear, then little bit more clarity, and then more clarity, and then reaches to the dev team for the execution. So it's an empirical process. Okay, so what is user story? So as we discuss about user story, it is concise written description of piece of functionality that will be valuable to stakeholders. So when we talk about user stories, it is very important that it should provide some value. So when whatever we are executing in Scrum, it should relate to some business value. So what is the best way? This is, you can see on a screen, there is a format of capturing the user stories. Like as a role, I can, the means it's a goal of the user or this role, so that he can get that business value. But this particular format is not something, prescribed everywhere. It is something like, it is very easy and convenient method of doing it. There are a lot of method, but what experts say that this is the best. So I just, kept it forward in my, further slides. So as a role, I can, the role what, and the goal what role is aiming, so that he can achieve this business value. And one more thing, that user stories is not something, which is part of Scrum methodology initially. It came from extreme programming. In extreme programming, we used to write the requirements in user stories form, but as it was very, adaptable and very convenient. So when we executed the Scrum, so we adopted user stories because it provides value while executing the projects. So let's talk about role. So when we say role in our user story format of capturing the requirement, so okay, so when we talk about the role in user stories in Scrum, so we say don't put any generic role like the user. So what Scrum suggests, put some persona over there. Persona means like you can put some name, you can put like a young boy, a young girl, 70 years old lady, how she will think about that particular system. So give it a persona to your requirement, and then you will be able to visualize the story or the requirement more clearly in comparison to when you use any generic role. So here you can see that Mike Cohn, probably you must have heard Mike Cohn. He was the founder member of Scrum Alliance, and he also recommends using roles so that we don't miss stories. And in roles, the persona. So how we say about persona? So let's talk about an 18-year-old guy who wants to use the online banking system. So when this guy will come to the login screen, so what he will say means how we can create the user story, that as we say as Kumar, who is 18-year-old guy, want to log in to banking system so that he will be able to see his account details. Okay, so this is a kind of very simple example of user stories to give a persona. So when we talk about this particular guy Kumar, so he is just 18-year-old, but when we create another user story where the persona is different, like we will take Michelle, who is 70-year-old lady. So for Michelle, there might be different requirement to enter in login screen. She wanted to see her balance of account first, not particularly like her transactions or end. So when we give the persona to a user story, we can see the clear requirement of a user. Probably Michelle might be seeing big buttons for login screens, but for Gaurav it might not be the case. So goal is, what this role, what our persona want to do. So some activity can be a different activities, like we were discussing about the, login screen to a banking system. So there can be different goals he wanted to achieve, like, he wanted to see his transaction history, he wanted to see his account balance, he wanted to do some transfer of money, he wanted to uh, do some kind of, different activities like paying the bill, whatever, and what he's achieving. So different personas might be having different business value. So it is very important that it does not say how, but it say what. So what user or our persona or our role want to do, it does not important how over here in user stories for this particular field goal. So business value. So business value is very important while crafting the user stories in Scrum, Agile, or whatever methodology, because the whole ideology of Scrum is aligned towards providing the business value as soon as possible while executing a project. So whatever, requirement a PO is capturing, by the way, for creation of any user story, our PO or BA or BSA is the primary uh, owner to create those requirements. It does not mean that other people can't create the requirement, they can, but the primary ownership is lying with our product owner. So he need to make sure that whatever stories he's writing or whatever requirements he's capturing, all the requirements should be associated with some business value to some user persona. So our business value should justify the value of a story, clarify why a feature is useful, can influence how a feature should function. So can influence how a feature should function. It depends on persona, because different persona want different business value. Helps prioritize the story in the backlog. So how a business value can prioritize the, help in prioritizing the stories in product backlog, like the requirements which are having greater business value should be executed first in the project. But I will say there are not only business value, there are some three other factors we will discuss later about those factors while prioritizing the requirements or the user stories in a product backlog. But business value is one of the factor which helps us in prioritizing the user stories in our product backlog. And now the last one is can lead to other useful features that support the user's goal. So it might be possible that the business value, what we are discussing related to any user story, will not be, I will say, ready to release, but it might be providing some value for a greater business value which is aligned towards market release. So it can be possible, like when we execute the sprints in Scrum, it might not be possible that at end of every sprint we will release the software. We are providing the business values at end of each sprint, but it might not be possible that we will release the software to the user at end of every sprint. So there is a release cycle in Scrum also. So probably, after every 2 sprints or after every 3 sprints, we are doing a release. So these kind of stories, the last one which we are talking, the business value, this might be aiming towards the release of the business increment. Okay, so this is just a typical example of TFS. So Microsoft TFS is a tool which we generally use, which is very popular, and we use while capturing the user stories and execution of Scrum. So I just took a screenshot of so you can see over here every detail is there for a user story. So user story is just a title. So you can see the title over here, and then if you will come to the details section, there you can find the acceptance criteria and what we discussed, like as a user I can pick which orders show up on my home page so I can track their progress. So this is something, a typical example, and this way you can see over here the test cases are there, attachments are there. So whatever information as and when PO is getting, he or she just need to attach to this user story at TFS, and it is very clearly saying that this story is assigned to whom and what is the state of the story, what is the area iteration part. So this area and iteration parts are organization specific, where they are managing their product backlog and all. But the basic idea is this is the format how we capture the requirement. So there is an acceptance criteria. So acceptance criteria is also given to the team before executing the user story, so that they should, when they will develop or execute that particular user story, while testing they should know that our development should fulfill these acceptance criteria. Otherwise, while doing the sprint demo, user or product owner will not accept this particular development. Okay, let's talk about invest model. So invest is it's came actually like that, but it consists of several different values in Scrum which make our user stories more meaningful. So what we say, like I for independent. So when we create a user story, it should be independent. Independent, that the less dependency this particular user story will have on other user stories, it will be very easy to execute or pick up that story during any sprint execution. So like if suppose there is one user story which is having 10 dependency, and we want to execute that particular user story in iteration, but our capacity, if we will take all 10 dependency in that particular sprint, our capacity will not allow, or sprint velocity of that particular team will not allow to take up the development of that story. So it is best that a story should be independent. It is having less dependency. It should be negotiable. So negotiable means uh, when we create a story, so there are a lot of it might not be possible that initially all the details will be available. So over the period of time, user might get idea, no, it was not like that, it should happen like that. So until unless it will not be coming as part of our sprint backlog, till that time story should be flexible enough to take up any changes. So it should be negotiable. Next is valuable. So valuable is, yes, every story should have one business value associated with it, at least one. It can be more, more than one business value, probably one user story is providing. But every story should have some value. Otherwise, there is no meaning of that user story. It means while crafting that user story, product owner miss something, or this requirement might not be having that importance uh, for that particular project. So if any user story is having less business value or no business value, you can understand that that story might stay way down in the product backlog and never get chance to be part of the sprint backlog for the execution. So there is no use, and over the period of time, probably product owner will remove that story from the product backlog because it is not getting picked up by the team because of its less business value. So there is no use in the first place to write that kind of stories. Every story should be valuable. So next is estimable. So here we are not talking about, in this particular webinar, we are not talking about the requirement estimation, but while crafting the user stories, it is very much required that a story should be estimable. So what do we mean by estimable? So in Scrum, when we say estimation, we in the first go we don't estimate the stories in terms of man hours or days. We estimate the stories in terms of story points. Might be you came across with the story points. So story points are nothing but a measurement or a unit for the complexity and few other factors associated with the user story. So like for weight we say kilogram or gram, for any liquid we say liter, milliliter. So the same thing is with user stories, we say that many story points. So what do we mean by the user story should be estimable? If the user story is very vague, so user or the team or the PO, nobody can estimate that user story and it is of no use. So there might be some user stories in the product backlog of a project which initially might not be having any clarity. So for that we just give a vague number in terms like, if you are doing your estimation as per Fibonacci series, so we generally give 21 to these kind of stories where at this moment clarity is not there, and these stories stay little way down in the product backlog. And as soon as the clarity comes and product owner put more clarity, more details into those user stories, and break those stories into more estimable manner. So till that time we just give a vague high estimate to this story, so that this story should not be considered or can be considered as this need more detail by the development team. So it is very much required that the story should be estimable. The size of the story, the next one, the small. So it is actually every element of invest is related to each other. So the smaller the story, the easy it will be easy for a dev team to estimate it. So if a small story will be there, so you will see generally during our sprint planning meeting for smaller stories, it generally get very quick consensus on the estimate of any user story. But if the bigger the story, the chances are the more clarity required for that particular story. So best way to break the user stories in more smaller stories, so that it will be easy for estimation, for taking up for execution, everything. It's always the best idea to keep the user stories small. If you will figure out that some user story is getting more complex, like getting 13 story points in product backlog, so as a team, as a product owner, as a whole team, everybody should try to break down that story further for the best project execution. So next is testable. So testable is whatever user story we are writing, we should be very clear before, while writing the story, that what should be the acceptance criteria for the user story, this particular user story. So this is actually, again, when we talk about the user acceptance test. So generally, product owner write the user acceptance test for any user story. For writing the user acceptance test, he might connect with the different stakeholders, users, and come up with a comprehensive idea of user acceptance test, which he will put a TFS or whatever tool the team is using while writing down that story, so that when team will pick that story for execution, they will keep in mind that user actually need to achieve this business value. So these user acceptance tests should pass through my development. So it's easy to know beforehand only what we are developing. Okay, so this is a 3 C's from Ron Jeffrey, a very wonderful way. Nowadays we are lot of teams, like in industry people don't have much time, so lot of companies are following like TFS, as I have told, one tool. Jira is another tool, lot of other tools, Rally is there. So companies are following online tools, but there are other ways also which so many companies are following, which are the physical card system. And this card system is now available on mobiles also, so many teams are using these card system on mobile also. So what are these 3 C's as per Ron Jeffrey? So first C is card, another is conversation, and third one is confirmation. So all three are nothing different than what we have discussed. Let's see how it will be. So card is like a physical card. At one side of this card, we will write down our user story. So the same what we have discussed. So as a user role, I want to achieve this goal so that I can get this business value. So the reason. So what is the goal of a user? So that will come on one side of the card, physical card. Like you can imagine, this card is something like our playing card. So one side, this user story is written. And so next one is conversation. So first one is talking about what user want to achieve as a goal. Then conversation is how user will achieve this goal. So our product owner will connect with stakeholder and get the clarity, like, okay, you want to achieve this goal, but what are the criteria you want to fulfill, or means how do you want to do, means what all personas you want to take, and just in time analysis through conversation. So it might be possible that in the start, when user thought of this particular requirement, that time he might not be able to have or conceptualize that stories in detail, but over the period of time he figured out that what all he want. So our PO will connect with stakeholder and get clarity of that particular requirement, probably just in time. So just in time is enough. Just in time is like just before execution of that particular requirement. So when we talk about execution of any requirement, so we will discuss that how a requirement or a user story get picked for execution. We will talk in later slides that one. So confirmation is nothing but the user acceptance test. So what we are discussing. So how to verify if the story is done and complete and the goal is achieved. So record what you learn in an acceptance test. So it is something like at one side of card we put the user story, and other side of card there will be a little description of that story and the user acceptance test. So in a sense, if you will think about this particular story, so here you can see this portion as a user I can pick. So this portion will come on one side of card, and on other side little bit more description of this particular requirement and this acceptance criteria will come. So this is a very wonderful technique, and still lot of teams use it because the estimations through these exercises are very accurate, I will say. And again, what estimation techniques they are using, what organization model is, it depends a lot of factors, but still this is one of the best techniques. Okay, so before discussing about epics, I will say that when we talk about Scrum, so lot of you will figure out online that lot of confusion is there between epics, themes, and user stories. Lot of people gave their explanation, and there is one guy, Mike Cohn, as I was discussing earlier, who was the co-founder of Scrum Alliance. Scrum Alliance is the organization which actually conceptualized the Scrum methodology. They laid down the principle for Scrum. So there is one very wonderful book he has written on user stories, and he has given very good explanation of epics, themes, and user stories. So what he say that epics are nothing. They are just large stories. So it is like our same user stories, but it is little bit large user stories. So a Scrum epic is large user story, so there is no magic threshold. So there is no size we can say that, okay, this story is that much large, so we should call it epic. It's just like if some story is not manageable in one sprint or two sprints, we call it an epic because this story is big. So epics generally take more than 1 or 2 sprints to develop and test. They are usually broad in scope, short on details, and will commonly need to be split into multiple smaller stories. So those are we call epics as per Mike Cohn. And he gave very wonderful example of it. Like he tells that when we talk about action movies, so he say like if somebody is asking, okay, what you are doing, so I will say, okay, I'm watching an action movie. So other person will think, okay, if it is an action movie, there might be some fighting scenes, there might be some car crashes, plane crashes, there might be some different kind of, he made the image of different kind of stories in his mind. But overall, it's a big requirement. It's a it's an action movie, so it's a theme. So Scrum team and PO work on breaking down the epics into the appropriate user stories during backlog grooming and refinement meeting. So example we have already discussed, but just wanted to give you an idea that it's again a user story, but a bigger user story which cannot be executed in 1 or 2 sprints. And how we can handle it to break this user story further into smaller stories for the execution purpose. There might be the cases that initially the complete details of that story is not available in the start. So probably when a team is executing a product backlog, this epic will lie little down in the product backlog, and once it will get clarified, more details it will get, and during our product backlog grooming sessions, team and product owner split this particular epic into smaller user stories, so those stories will get more priority and come on top in the product backlog. So what are themes then? If epic is a big user story, then what are themes? So when we were talking about epic, so we discussed that it is again a story. But when we talk about the theme is a group. It's not a single story like epic was there. It's a group of user stories, similar kind of goal those user stories trying to achieve. So a group of those user stories that share a common attribute. And for convenience, they are grouped together. The individual user story, however, can each be accomplished in a single sprint. So it might be possible that there is a theme. There are 10 user stories which are trying to achieve single goal, and particular user story can be executed in particular sprint. So it is not required that whole theme need to be executed in a single sprint, or if we will execute, means it's kind of, there might be possible that there is no dependency of these user stories which are part of a theme. So like we will say, if I will say that I am having a James Bond movie collection. Okay, so James Bond movie collection, it's a theme, but it is having different James Bond movies. So it's just a theme. I can watch at a time one particular movie, and okay, I like that particular movie. But when we talk about epic, it is like action movie. If I will see, or if I will watch one particular, action sequence, I might get happy, but I will not came to know the complete story. It's an epic. It's a big requirement, big user story. So what are themes? Just a broad way of describing an area of focus. So it is not a kind of user story. It's a group of user stories, focusing on same attribute. Okay, so as we were discussing, like, there are different stages in a project. So especially when we talk about, Scrum execution, or, any project execution as per the Scrum methodology. So there are different stages, like there is every day we do something. So there are daily stand-ups, there are daily, team is executing something, and then there are sprint level objectives are there. So every day team is setting up some objectives for themselves, like individual is picking up some tasks, and then sprint level objectives are there. Then there is a release level objectives. Okay, after 3 sprints we will be able to release this particular business value to the stakeholder based on our current sprint velocity. And there are then project objectives. So how our different these elements talked about, I will say, or fit at different level of the project journey. So when we talk about the project, so it can be themes, it can be epics. So basically here at project level, what we are trying to do, it is very high level requirements. So not much details probably available at the beginning of the project. So just out of the context, I'm telling, lot of time at this stage while doing the estimation, we do t-shirt sizing estimation. I'm not sure you people have heard about t-shirt sizing estimation. It is it is very useful when the requirement details are not that much available in hand, and we need to reach to some ballpark figure for a project execution estimation. So how we do in t-shirt sizing. So we take generally 3 t-shirt sizes, like small, medium, large, and for every high level epics or themes, we generally give some small, medium, large tag, and at the end of the day we associate certain hours to that particular small, medium, large, and reach out to some ballpark figure for a project execution, even when we don't have much clarity or the details available at the beginning of the project. So that time we talk in terms of epics and themes. But when we talk about the release, so release is very much related to the sprint velocity. So what is our sprint velocity? That on that basis of sprint velocity, the product owner, or whoever is there in the management side, or whoever is doing the commitment, or the team can say that after 2 sprints we will be able to deliver that much business value, based on, like, okay, these are the stories. Our current sprint velocity is 30 story points. So let's talk about product backlog now, and the ownership of product backlog. So product backlog is nothing, just a place where we capture our requirement in terms of user stories, and our product owner, logically, he is the responsible person for maintaining this product backlog, whether it comes to the clarifying the requirements in product backlog, or putting more details into this product backlog. So it does not mean that a product owner can only put the requirements in product backlog. Anybody can put, but as he is the owner of product backlog, product owner, so his responsibility is to make sure the integrity of product backlog. So that what do I mean by the integrity of product backlog is, like, whatever user story or the items or the requirements are there in product backlog, he is responsible to put more clarity, more details into the product backlog, so that team will be able to understand those requirements. So it's not actually static, it's dynamic. So every time product backlog grooming, it's a continuous activity. So how generally it happen in any organization? So suppose we are executing currently any sprint. So during that sprint, like this sprint can be of 2 weeks or 3 weeks. So it depends on the product backlog, project, and the organization culture. So generally, once or twice, the product owner arrange product backlog grooming session, and during this product backlog grooming session, he discussed these requirements with team, and clarify whatever his understanding of the requirement, why those user acceptance tests are there, what is the meaning of those user acceptance tests, what is the meaning of different elements in the requirement. He discussed with the team and get team's understanding, give the answers to team's question related to particular requirement, and if there is a requirement of breaking down the story further, he break down the story. So whatever during any sprint, this product owner is taking up the requirement for discussion. Probably he's discussing the requirement for next sprint. So he's grooming the backlog probably for next sprint or next to next sprint. So generally in organization, the product owners follow 2 iteration window. So 2 iteration window is like you see this diagram. So there are 2 iterations you can see. The yellow box, that is the current iteration which is under execution. So what is going on over here? So clarify iteration 1 requirement. So during our sprint planning meeting, he gave the complete description or details or clarify the current iteration or the current sprint requirement. And during our grooming plans, sprint grooming or product backlog grooming meetings, what he do, gather requirements and write stories for iteration 2. So he is actually working in this iteration for the requirements of this iteration. So it depends again on the organization. Some POs follow till one future iteration, some PO follow till two iterations or two future sprints. So that depends on different product owner or project or organization. So quickly, let's go through it. So product owner, business analyst is the owner of product backlog, and product owner, business analyst decide the priority of the items because he is the person who put down the requirements or the user stories in the product backlog, and he's more I will say aligned towards the stakeholders objectives. So he knows better about the priorities or the business value of those requirements. So how a product owner decides the priorities of a items of different items in product backlog. So there are basically 4 elements are there. So one is uncertainty, business value, risk associated with any particular story, and the cost of development. So uncertainty is how much clarity we are having right now for any particular user story. If we are not having, or our product owner is not having much clarity about any particular requirement, so the priority should be less for that particular user story. And if the requirement is clear, priority will be high. The same with business value. So what is the business value of that particular requirement? What is the risk associated with it? So risk associated is, suppose we will not take this particular requirement for this sprint for execution. What is the risk of not taking it in this current sprint? So that is the risk associated with any particular requirement, and the cost of development. So product owner initiate the product backlog grooming once or twice during the sprints as we discussed, and he is responsible to keep the product backlog healthy. So healthy means whatever requirements which are really obsolete, not required at this time, over the period of time he realized these requirements are not important enough now, he can remove those requirements from the product backlog and bring new requirements into the product backlog. So I found actually one very good example of product backlog here. So this is an example of product backlog. So you can see there are different items in the product backlog. So here you can see this is the estimate in terms of user stories 3. So he is inserting an item. So this item might not be part of product backlog in the start. Later on, he got this item from stakeholders that this is having good priority item, so let's execute it. So he is just inserting this item into the product backlog. Little above, reprioritize the items. So reprioritize the items. So over the period of time, probably the priorities of different user stories getting changed. So every sprints generally, so at end of every sprint generally, product owner reprioritize, check again, recheck the priorities or validity of the user stories, and he reprioritize the user stories as per the business requirements. So you can see we originally large item, so this is something epic we were talking. So refine items, so it is like an epic. We are breaking down epic into smaller user stories. This is deleted item, delete item. So this user story didn't get picked up, now obsolete, not having much business value. So over the period of time, product owner has deleted this particular user story. It's a good way of seeing how product backlog things happen. Okay, so product backlog is somewhere, product owner is the owner of product backlog, and he is putting the requirements over here. But what is the sprint backlog? So sprint backlog is nothing but the set of requirements which team is executing and during any particular sprint or iteration. And when we talk about the ownership, so for sprint backlog, the Scrum team is the owner of sprint backlog, not the product owner, not anybody else. So suppose during our sprint planning meeting, team picked suppose 4 user stories on from top of the product backlog, and as per their capacity, and they decided to execute. So those 4 stories will come and stay in sprint backlog, and during that Scrum time box event, that particular sprint, like if suppose team is executing 2 weeks sprint, so during those 2 weeks sprint, team will concentrate only on these 4 stories, and whatever priorities are changing in product backlog, that does not matter to the team, because they have committed to deliver these 4 stories after 2 weeks. So sprint backlog is a list of tasks identified and committed by Scrum team to be completed during any sprint. So Scrum team is the owner of sprint backlog. During the sprint planning meeting, the team selects prioritized user stories from the product backlog and identifies the task necessary to complete each user story. So that is, how is the structure of a sprint planning meeting. So team selects the prioritized user stories as per their capacity and divide these user stories into the executionable task, and different team members picks different tasks as per the cross-functional team expertise and execute. So this is a kind of a typical sprint backlog example. So you can see the first column is having 2 user stories, and then these user stories are getting breakdown into the task, and see how it happened. Like you can see here. So at day 1, so at the time of our start of a sprint, so this particular task is having 8 hours work. Estimation is 8 hours. Day 2, so 4 hours work has been done already, but during day 3, team or the executioner realized there can be 4 hours more work. So initial estimation was not covering this particular requirement or the risk associated with this requirement. So the work has increased now again, but in day 4, the person has, or the team member who is assigned for this task, he has finished this particular task. So it happens like that for every task in the sprint. So day wise team enters their accomplishment in terms of hours they have finished based on their capacity. So that's a whole different topic of estimation and sprint execution. Okay, so let's do a small exercise. So we learned about user stories, that what is the structure of user story, like as a role. As a role, I want to do this, and this is the business value user want to achieve. So there is a we discuss about the format over here. So as a role, I want to goal so that I can do or achieve this business value. So as you can see that we have this webinar, and we discuss about the agenda in the start of this webinar. So I just picked certain items from that agenda. So the first item was, like, if you remember, traditional versus agile requirement crafting. So this is kind of title of our user story. So, and then again there is one more user story title I have taken. So 3 C's from John Jeffrey. So what is the task? Now you need to come up with a user story for these user story titles in that term. Am I clear to everybody? Okay, let me help you. Okay, good. So Manish has replied, as a participant, I want to know difference between traditional versus agile requirement. So this is something, Manish. It is good attempt actually. So it is half of the user story. So as a participant, as a user, I want this, but how miss the business value is missing over here. So business value could be like, so that I can understand Scrum better, something like that. Correct. So you put two elements, very correct, but third element is missing. That is the business value. Anybody else? Okay, let me just put the user stories against these particular user stories title. So, as a new Agile practitioner, I want to know the basic difference between traditional and Agile requirement crafting so that I can grasp the further Agile framework correctly. So, here is a particular user role is there, a persona. He is a new Agile practitioner, and what he wants to know a clarity about whatever he is following or whatever industry is following, and what is Agile requirement crafting, so that he can understand Agile framework correctly. So second one is, as a Scrum product owner, so here I have taken the persona of a product owner. So as a Scrum product owner, I want to learn about Ron Jeffries 3C technique so that I can create more meaningful user stories. So both the user stories, if you will see, are having a particular persona. There is a objective or a goal for this persona and towards a business value. So this is how we craft the requirements in a very simple way. So there is another two items I took from uh, our agenda only. So let's try this out. Please develop the user stories in the way I just show you in the last slide. So if you want to take a look once again for this, please see this. And you have to create the user stories for these two sprints. Guys, please type your responses in the window. Okay, anybody? Okay. Okay, so Manish is saying, cool. As a participant, I want to know. See, one thing over here. So, practitioner or participant. So, it's a very generic term. So, that's what we discuss. Give some persona. If you will see the user stories, what I shared. So, it was like new agile practitioner, Scrum product owner. So, I'm giving some, role to this guy. So, okay, Manish is saying, as a practitioner, I want to know, or participant, I want to know the difference between traditional versus agile requirement crafting. Okay, the day one. Okay, as a agile practitioner, I want to know the difference between sprint backlog and ownership so that I can better implement agile in my current project. Okay, so next is, as a practitioner, I want to understand sprint backlog and ownership to apply these learnings to my current project. Great. As a Scrum practitioner or practice owner, I want to understand the sprint backlog process so that better ownership can be directed. Okay, so means well tried. Uh, See, I will say whatever persona or the role you are giving to your particular this role, you should first understand, first of all, is when we talk about the sprint backlog and ownership. So and is something like it is talking about sprint backlog only, so there is no difference between it, so we are not talking about the difference. Another thing is, when we talk about the sprint backlog, you should understand the roles behind it, as team is the owner of sprint backlog, as we discussed. Okay, and okay, let's see how I crafted these requirements. So as a scrum team member, so as you know, scrum team is the owner of sprint backlog. So as a scrum team member, I want to know what sprint backlog is. I want to know about sprint backlog and who owns it, so that I can contribute more to my scrum team. Are you people agree with me? So is this particular
Yeah,
school looking like more meaningful?
Yes.
yeah, definitely.
Okay, so let's talk about the second one. So two iteration window. Okay, so this is two iteration window. It's just the title of the story. So do you want to try this one out? Two iteration window. Okay, it's already there at the screen. So no matter. So as a Scrum product owner, so when we talk about the two iteration window, it is very much important for a product owner, because he need to clarify the requirement for the next sprint. So as a Scrum product owner, I want to know when I should arrange the backlog grooming so that I can help Scrum team in breaking the user stories without disturbing them. So in Scrum, because the team is very much focused towards achieving certain, sprint objectives, so it is very much required that nobody should actually create an impediment towards team project execution. So generally, Scrum owner handles that removal of impediments, but as a team, Scrum owner should not become an impediment. He should be, a sub, a player. I will say a part of the team, not the impediment. So this way, actually, you can create some meaningful stories. I will not say in the first go everybody will be able to write meaningful stories, from day one. But as we say that the more practice you will do, the more you will understand how to craft good or meaningful user stories. So basically, you need to keep in mind three things always: the role, the persona, the user role or persona, what we have discussed about user stories. The second one is what he want to achieve through this, and means what is the business value he will get towards this. So I will tell you, when we execute, or any company or any team execute a project in an organization, so related to the project, during their different meetings, initial meetings, they create some personas actually for that particular project. So it's not like similar kind of personas will be a good fitment for all the projects. Every project is having different uh, objectives and require different personas. So initially, for making more meaningful user stories, team meet with each other, they create some personas. They actually, a lot of team put the pictures, they give some name, like uh, Sandy, Stacy, Murthy. They give suppose three personas, and they put one pictures just like that, and put it at their desk, so that product owner, while creating the user stories, he will keep these personas in mind, creating more meaningful user stories. So these are the ways to be more focused towards providing the business value, keeping in mind these will be our users for our project. So these are few ways actually. So like same, there are, you know uh, okay, so there is a question like, is it a valid user story? As a user, I want to log in to Gmail account so I can check my email. See, I will tell you, Manish, there is nothing right or wrong in while creating the user stories. It is just like the project context. So when we talk about Gmail, so here you are talking about Gmail, a mailing system. So who has created it? Google. Think from that perspective, the Google developer, while creating the login for Google, for Gmail, what he you think yourself as a Google user, or Google, I will say the developer who is keeping the whole different personas in mind while creating the stories, or the login for Gmail. So now you are telling, is it a valid story? So it's a good story, but there are some improvements required over here. See, as a user is very generic term, as I have told you. So user can be, you know, Gmail can be used by a 15-year person, 15-year boy or girl. It can be used by a 25 years person. It can be used by a 35-year person. You need to define different persona first of all. Second one is, okay, your goal is very clear. Want to log into Gmail account, correct? So I can check my emails. So now this business value of checking emails. So this can be different for different persona. Okay, so what could be the different, if you will log in to your your mailbox, so different objectives can be different. Like, a guy who is a business guy, he want to see his today's mail on at the first screen. There is a different guy, business guy, he want to see only the market quotation on his when he log in into the account. So different personas can have different objectives. This is very generic, I will say, but somehow I will say you are getting the point that there are three elements in a user story which need to be addressed, think through, addressed. But as I have told, the more we practice, the more we learn. Correct. So that is the way, how we learn. Okay, so is there any other question anybody is having? We can discuss related to user stories, theme, epics. Okay, I will say these are few books. I personally read these books. These are wonderful books. If you want to know more about user stories, themes, epics, please read User Stories Applied from Mike Cohn. It is the best book in the market for this particular topic. And there is another book, Scrum and XP from Trenches by Henrik. This book is very close to my heart. I like the style of writer and how he explains the sprints and different elements of Scrum and XP. It is wonderful book, very easy. And for this particular topic, I will say you need to read lot of blogs, and then you will realize that what we have discussed actually related to the difference, the project fitment of different elements, themes, epics, and user stories. People are so much confused, and the experts have given very good advices related to that. But this webinar could be a start for you towards getting more clarification from different blogs. There are not much books available on these particular topics specifically. So I will suggest these two books what I have mentioned could be meaningful for you people. Any other question?
Yes, I have a question. Like basically in Agile, we think that like like in a sprint we can finish a particular user story. We will not like carry forward to another sprint. But in case of Epic, like that is big one, so it can span over multiple user story. So basically, what we do, should we divide the epics into user story to continue with the work, or we can just carry forward to the another next sprint something?
Got it. So see, the thing is that when we say about execution, so you cannot execute an epic in a single iteration. That's why we are calling it epic. So we need to break it down and need to take different user stories. Suppose we have an epic, and team discussed with product owner, and they come up, this epic is equivalent to these 5 user stories. So probably 2 or 3 user stories they will take in this particular sprint, and rest of the user stories they will take in another upcoming sprint. So we during the execution of a sprint, we can take only those user stories which are estimable, like which fulfill actually the invest criteria. So the user stories should have small enough, they should be estimable, they should have some business value associated with it, they are negotiable. So all the new elements, once it will fit, then only we can execute. We cannot execute a big epic in one sprint, and it is against the team capacity or team velocity also. So team velocity is just 30 story points, and that this particular epic is equal to 40 story points. So team is definitely, they cannot take it. Correct?
Yes, got it.
Amit.
Yes.
Hello. Yeah,
Yes,
I have one query. Yeah, so I have one query. My understanding was Epic is something a big business initiative. So like we are developing a product for our company, that is a Epic. So is that understanding is correct?
I will say, see, when we talk about like how you set up the context, that we call vision actually. Okay, so
Okay.
a vision in some cases, a vision can be aligned towards epic. Okay.
Okay.
So like as I have told, okay, I am making one action movie. Okay, so this action movie is a product for me, correct? But my epic is action movie, so it is having
Correct.
different elements. So sometime an epic can be aligned towards vision, but when we talk about a high level portfolio or program level or project level, when we talk about the broader objectives, so we call it vision, because we want to achieve this very high level. Vaguely we are talking, we want to achieve this, we are not going into details. So it can be, it cannot be aligned to an epic definition. It can be aligned towards one or more epics.
Okay.
I have another question on the theme. Like, what is the basic purpose of theme? Is it only to categorize the different similar stories together, or any other uses?
Okay, so that's a very good question. Why theme? Because it's not a story. Then why we maintain themes? So suppose you are making one accounting software, okay, and there are different user stories related to payroll system. So for all the stories which are related to the payroll system, we provided one theme, that these all, like suppose 10 user stories are related to payroll system. So these 10 user stories come under payroll theme. So until and unless all, probably these stories are independent in terms of functionality and all, but all these stories are having one objective, like one attribute, payroll system. So why theme? Because until and unless these 10 stories will not get finished, we will not finish the all features and functionalities of payroll system. So that's how we we track down a particular feature or stream in requirements. As such, there can be a dependency, there cannot be. So that is the only reason we group out the user stories in themes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So epic comes on top of theme.
No. So see, when we talk about theme, so a theme can have different epics even. See, basically I will say there is no comparison, because epic in itself is a requirement of the story, user story, a big user story.
Yes.
Theme is just a group.
Okay.
So don't get confused while comparing these two. One is a group,
Okay.
another is a user story. A theme can have multiple epics even.
Okay, got it.
Okay, one more question I have regarding the t-shirt sizing estimation and all. Like basically in
Yes.
Agile, we do estimation like just we take a small story and medium size story by just comparing both of them, like what is my team velocity and all. So if a team is starting to implement Agile, so will it take a few sprints, like 3 to 4 sprints at least, they can spend, so they can define a velocity, and then they can compare and identify and do the things like t-shirt sizing and all?
Okay, so I will tell you first of all the t-shirt sizing. Generally at the sprint level, we avoid t-shirt sizing estimation, because t-shirt sizing estimation is little vague. We do t-shirt sizing estimation when we don't have much clarity about the requirement. Generally, we do t-shirt sizing on the program level while giving the ballpark figures. When we do the estimation on sprint level, that time we generally use planning poker or Fibonacci series. This is the first thing. Second thing is, yes, you are correct. At the first, means during the first sprint, we might not have the idea of our sprint velocity. Generally, it takes 2 to 3 sprints to get a stabilized team velocity. But how we generally perform in organization, I'm telling you the practical way. See, it is not something like first day we are, it can be different from if project is the first project in the organization in Scrum framework. If not, there must be some historical data available. So there might be some user stories, for estimation, or there might be these teams which have prior to this project worked on Scrum projects. So a kind of rough idea people have. If not, then yes, you are correct. It takes 2 to 3 sprints, sometime more, I will say, to get that stable velocity for a team. That is correct. But generally in organization who are following Scrum, we have some historical data, and we do some ballpark estimation, came to know, okay, this team will have 30 user story, 30 story point velocity, something. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, Amit, yeah, I have one more query related to Nego. That you told that we have one attribute of a good user story, that is negotiation. So just want to know, is that something, the scope of that user story is not freeze until that is moved to a sprint backlog?
Absolutely. I will say until unless it has not been picked from the team for execution. Okay. So there can be some changes from the stakeholder side. So the story should be that much flexible enough that it can be changed.
Okay. Okay, and also we are covering non-functional requirement through these user stories only, or do we have some other way of doing that?
No, it's not only non-functional requirements. It's like functional and non-functional both. So means there is nothing like separate things for that.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other question? Okay, cool. I think we are good. So hope you like this session and your queries got answered. So this presentation, probably you can check with Abhishek how it will be available for you. Thanks everybody. Thanks for joining.